Hello meets world, and we are back with another one. Today I have projectl character predictions coming at you. You know what it is, they announced the game, so now we've got to make a bunch of predictions on which characters are going to be in. So we've got projectl and we've got a character sheet here. Mind you, there are a lot of characters which I've just decided to leave out of this list, not even give them a chance and a chance of speculation, just because I don't feel like they fit in the game as it is right now. But there are characters like Kale and Morgana who aren't here, who could quite very easily be in projectl. So this is just my opinion on which characters I feel have the strongest chance of making an appearance in the game. So there are different categories which I have decided to divide these characters into. There is the definitely in category. The definitely in category is for the characters which have already been announced. There's 5 of them. And then there's also other characters which, just based off who Riot Game is and what they stand for, I would be shocked if they didn't make it into the cast. So there will be a bunch of characters in definitely in. Then there is the very likely section. This is for characters from this list which are very likely to make it into the game, but we don't have that like 100% kind of feeling about them. We're more feeling like an 80%, 75% chance that those characters are going to show up. Then there's characters which are gameplay dependent. So if the gameplay leans one way, then they'll probably be integrated into the game. But if it leans another way, we can't be sure about them popping up. It's really dependent on the gameplay. And this is the category of I am not sure. This is like the I am not sure category. Let's call it that. So then we have the unlikely section. The unlikely section, what's going to be in here is very self-explanatory. Characters which I don't think will be in the game. From my list of characters which are more likely than others, here are the unlikely people. And then we've got a final prediction slot where I'm going to call a list of 35 characters. I think their roster is going to be pretty big on release. I think it's going to be in that range of around high 20s to below 40, within that range. So 25 to 40, around that range. I'm predicting that's what they're going to give us. I'm hoping that's what they're going to give us, because they've got a lot of characters. They've got 140 characters. So calling this is very hard. I've done this video before. I've changed my mind on a few things, and the last version of the video sucked in my opinion because there was music in the back and it killed the vibe of everything. So without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, we know in the definitely in category, we've got Katarina has been announced. We've got Darius. Darius is also in that category. We've got Ari. She's in Ionia. If you haven't noticed, I've grouped them based on their regions. That's going to be one of the metrics that we're using to gauge where everyone fits in. We're going to be using their region and where they're from to make calculated guesses. We've got Jinx, and now Echo has been announced as well. So these 5 characters 100% are going to be in projectl: Katarina, Darius, Ari, Jinx, and Echo. Without a doubt, locked in, boys. We are going to be seeing these people, and just based on this speculation, we can make a very quick guess, a very quick calculated guess. We've got Jinx and we've got Echo next to each other in this game. We have to realize that in a fighting game, what's going to build up a lot of hype is that Riot wants to build up some rivalries in the game, and they want characters which are kind of linked to each other to give us interesting dialogue, etc. So a very easy jump is to put in Vi. So Vi is going to be in the game. That's a definitely in. She's going to be a boxing archetype. I don't think we'll see her use kicks. She's going to be like Steve Fox, and I'm really excited to see like a Steve Fox kind of character. Maybe she's got a mechanic to dodge differently than other people, kind of like Steve Fox. We'll see how that goes, but Vi is going to be in the game. Another person who's definitely going to be in is Garen. We've got Katarina, we've got Darius. Garen and Katarina kind of have like this weird star-crossed lovers relationship, so that they want to play on that definitely. Riot Games is definitely going to be leaning on that, which means Garen is going to be in the game. And I mean, he's Demasia's poster boy. If we're going by regions, he's the person in Demacia that you just have to have. He's also like a good rival for Darius. It makes sense to put them across each other. That rivalry has been building up ever since the beginning. The two characters are just like made for each other. So we're going to be seeing Darius in the game. Let's move on. Okay, and now the next character from Demacia, which I'm just going to call as a definitely in, is Lux. In my last video, I didn't give her a lot of credit, but Lux is just the poster girl for League of Legends. She just is. She's in most of the promo material. She sells a lot of skins. She's a very popular character within the game. Riot would be crazy to leave her out. And in that same vein of popularity and characters which are just like popular in the game, we've got YASUO. YASUO is going to be sliding very, very easily into this definitely in slot. The Ionian Bladesman has proved himself as a huge part of the Runeterra franchise, the League of Legends franchise, and there's just a lot of people who play him and love him as a character, and there's a lot of us who hate him as well. But yeah, YASUO is a almost guaranteed character, so I'm going to put him in the definitely in category. Another person who I'm going to be slotting into the definitely in character is that if we're going to have Ionian characters in this game, Zed is definitely on the roster for the Ionian characters. Zed is just a very good character to have as a villain. So if we need a bunch of villain characters, which we will, because this game's going to need like some rivalries and some evil people, some good people, a lot of character diversity. That's kind of the reason why in my last video you would have heard I called Echo. I knew Echo was coming out because they just needed character diversity. They need that kind of like the black dude, and then they're going to need like the Asian dude, they're going to need like the ninja, then they're going to need like the werewolf, you know. So they are going for a lot of diversity, and Zed makes a lot of sense within that diversity as a villain. I think we're going to be seeing Zed in projectl 100%. Now we've got to look at these characters. Is there anyone else here who I really think is 100% auto include? I have a controversial take on this actually. Another person who I think is going to be in 100% is Lee Sin. Now I'll tell you why. Lee Sin is actually built on the model of having a Bruce Lee character. So in League of Legends itself, I feel like he is the Bruce Lee character of League of Legends. Now if you play a lot of fighting games, you'll know that Bruce Lee pops up a lot in a lot of different forms in fighting games. So in Naruto he's Rock Lee, but that's not a fighting game, but I'm just putting you on game right now. He's martial law in Tekken. He is Kung Lao in Street Fighter. He also makes, not Kung Lao, sorry, he's Liu Kang. What am I saying? He's Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat, not Street Fighter. What's he in Street Fighter again? Damn. He's the dude, I forgot his name in Street Fighter, but he does have a character who represents him in Street Fighter as well. So here is our quintessential Bruce Lee character, and we might see like a 1-inch punch kind of thing come out of Lee Sin, which is a staple for all of like the Bruce Lee characters. They have some sort of like 1-inch punch in their kit. And I think Riot is going to lean into that. I think they love culture. They've been making memes and references to things for a very long time. Long before Fortnite was. They had like dances, popular dances in League of Legends long before Fortnite. So I think Riot Games is just going to put in Lee Sin. He's definitely in. So with that, we've already now got a bit of a headache moving on. I think this is the cast that is definitely in. We've got 5... 10, 11 characters which I think are locked for projectl. If you don't see one of these characters, you can call me out, but I think they all got to be there on release. Alright, so what is the problem that I was talking about that we have because of this? Ionia. Ionia is stacked. Like, if you look, I have had to make 2 lines for Ionia, which I haven't made for anyone else, and it still might not be enough. Ionia is a problem figuring out which characters are going to be prominent and which characters aren't going to be, because there's just so many characters which fit into this cast. I never would have called Ari at all, but they showed her in the promo material. So Ari made this very, very crazy. I think for now, what we are going to do, instead of struggling with Ionia, what we're going to do is start eliminating people. So we're going to be taking out characters which I don't think are going to pop up. I just thought I'd mention a 12th character who is definitely in the game, but we're just going to put him in the bottom, is Teemo. Teemo will show up in the game in some form. Like, he will be there in some form. Whether he's in the background or as a playable character, that's very debatable. But Teemo will be in projectl. I'm just not sure about his playability. So we'll put him there in the definitely in section as well. Alright, let's get rid of characters. I don't think Tristana and Heimerdinger is actually gameplay dependent, so we'll put Heimerdinger there. I think Tristana's fallen out of love for at Riot Games. I don't think they like her as much. Mind you, she's still getting into certain things, but I think Tristana is not in their top priorities to feature in games and public material, etc., etc. So I'm just gonna get her out of there. I think the Yordle that we're more likely to see in projectl is Poppy. Poppy has been popping up recently in a lot of different stuff, and I think fairly so. She's a good fit for this kind of game. She'd have a really nice knock up with the hammer, and I really think they could build her kit in an interesting way. So for our Yordle character, our first Yordle that we're going to be seeing from Bandle City and Demacia, we're going to put her in very likely. And Fizz, I'll also put Fizz in very likely as well. I think Fizz is also the kind of character that you can put in projectl very, very easily. Now, Leona is probably the person who should start the most likely list. So I think with the very likely, I wanted to kind of go in order, but let's not be too stressed out about that. So Leona, again, is another character who just shows up in a lot of promo material and a lot of just stuff that I feel like she's almost an auto-include, really. I'd be shocked to not see her in unless they don't release a lot of Targon characters on release. That would be the only reason why Leona doesn't make it into the game, is that Targon as a region just doesn't feature in the game as much. And if you've got Leona, you have to put in Diana. That's just standard. So Diana, by virtue of Leona, I'll put her under Leona just so we can show the relationship there. Another character who's probably like 100% in, I'll put definitely in for Braum. Braum, they love Braum at League of Legends. He's in everything as of late. He's another character who's definitely in. So this whole thing is going to end up in the final prediction. This whole section, I'm just going to copy that section in. Those characters are involved. Alright, very likely, and we're just grouping people. Taric, I'm not sure about Taric. I don't think his kit puts him in a good light to be in projectl, to be honest. He's more of like a supportive character. It is a tag team kind of game, so we'll see, but I don't have high expectations for Taric. I think Aphelios is more likely than Taric. I'll put Aphelios in gameplay dependent. Aphelios, I'm not sure. He's really that character, I'm not sure. I think he'd be cool. I think he'd be much cooler in projectl than he is in League or in Legends of Runeterra, the card game. I think he'd be a really good fit for projectl. Like, if they can figure out a way to make his kit as spicy as I think it could be. But the gunslinger, who I think is more likely to show up, and we are bringing in another Ionian person, but I think Jin is like the type of character who's less region dependent. Like, I think he goes to a bunch of different reasons. But Jin is also very likely. We also need more villains in the cast. So far we've got Zed, we've got Jin as kind of like villains. We've got the two Sun and Moon sisters as kind of like foils to each other. We've got Darius as a foil to Garen and vice versa. So let's move on, guys. Zoe, I don't think we're going to be seeing Zoe. I don't think it's really cool to be like hitting on a child. That came out so wrong. Wait. Let me backtrack. I don't think it's alright for us to be beating up this small girl, although she's like, what, 10,000 years old? How old is Zoe really? I think she like created like a bunch of the stars and stuff. But her persona is girly. Really, to be honest, I just don't see her as a nice fit. I hope Zoe's not in Project L. Let me put it like that. I personally don't want her to be in Project L. Alright, Malphite as the last person from Targon. I'm going to just put him in unlikely. I think if they need a biggish kind of character, they've already got Braum to fill that role. They've got Darius, so he might not make an appearance really. I wouldn't put him in. He feels like the kind of character that would be slow and sluggish, and then his ultimate unstoppable force is like a screen like gap. He like crosses a huge amount of distance really quickly. I don't see him being viable. Even animating him like as a rock, I think he'd look very like out of place next to the other characters in terms of the designs. So I'm gonna put Malphite in unlikely. Still more probable than a lot of other people. Aatrox! Aatrox is a hard one to call. I want to put him at the bottom of very likely. Like the bottom of very likely. I don't think he's going to show up, but he's not really like in that mode where it's like gameplay dependent. He could make an appearance, but you know what? Unlikely. Unlikely for Aatrox. That's the section he belongs into. Alright, now two gameplay dependent characters. Now, I think Ryze is very likely to be in the game because Ryze and Tryndamere were the original like creators or founders of League of Legends, right? So Ryze and Tryndamere are probably going to make it. Like, they didn't put Ryze in Legends of Runeterra yet, so I think there's more reason to now try and slot him into Project L. The reason why I'd put him in gameplay dependent is just because Ryze's kit is such a problem for League of Legends itself. And now to try and fit that kit in into Project L, that one with like the roots and the spell spamming, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to get that right. Hopefully they've got a good idea on how to put Ryze into the game, but for now I'm going to call him as gameplay dependent. I'm not sure he'll make an appearance, but I think he's more likely than a lot of other people. Okay, Annie is also gameplay dependent. The reason is Tibbers. So at first, I thought Annie was very likely to be in the game, but they recently announced that it's going to be a tag fighter, right? So you're going to be able to call someone in, another character in, to give an assist. If Annie is going to be her, Tibbers, and another person coming in for an assist, I can see a problem when they're developing the game, that there's just too much screen, like she takes too much estate on the screen, like real estate on the screen, like really, like she's three people. Like if you play Annie, you've got like three characters and three bodies on the screen. I think you can cause a lot of visual confusion and really tick a lot of people off because of something like that. And because of that, I think it's going to be very gameplay dependent. If they figure out how to put her in correctly, she might be in. But for now, I would just say I don't think she's going to be in. And another character who in the same vein, what am I doing? Another character in the same vein who I don't think will be making it for the exact same reason is Malzahar. I think there was another summoner, but any summoners are going to be in the gameplay dependent section, and probably in the more unlikely part of the gameplay section. It just depends. If there is summoners, they will make it in. If there's not, they won't. Alright, Jax. I'm gonna put Jax as unlikely, just because I don't feel like he has a lot of character or personality. Really, they let this character slide. He's the master of arms though, so technically he should be in a fighting game. Like if we're thinking about characters who you'd want in your fighting game and who would make sense, I think Jax is 100% yes, but I don't think he deserves it just based on the fact that we don't see much of his character shine, and really I think he's a bland character, to be honest. Like if I just call it, a spade. Like, he's bland. Okay, Nidalee, a shapeshifter. Now, a shapeshifter would be a lot easier to put into the game than a summoner, but I still think she's going to be very gameplay dependent. I don't think... I'd rather put her in unlikely, because I personally don't think Nidalee will be in the game. In fact, most of the characters from Xtal I don't think will be in the game, unfortunately. It would be nice to get Qiyana. Qiyana, I think, is higher. Like, I think Qiyana's here in the bottom, like the absolute bottom of, like, very likely, but that's just me being nice. It's just a wish. I should have made like a wish list of characters which I'd like but probably aren't gonna make it. But yeah, let's just put her where she belongs to be. Alright, now we get an interesting one from Ixtal, right? We've got Rengar, and Rengar is the kind of character who could make an appearance into projectl. He does have a kit to fight with, can kind of go invis, does have a good rival in Kha'Zix, so let's just drag Kha'Zix in there. So we did have a bunch of characters in Void. As you could see, it was Kha'Zix, it was Kassadin, and it was Malzahar. Kassadin, I'm not sure, and my I'm not sure section is kind of like the gameplay dependent section. I'm really not sure. Kai'Sa should be up here too. I really should have put Kai'Sa on the list. She is the kind of character who could potentially break into this just because of her popularity. Kai'Sa is a very popular character. I think the team at Riot like her a lot. Okay, the Ascendants, the Egyptian god cards. Obelisk the Tormentor, the Winged Dragon of Ra, and Slifer. Here's Obelisk. Just gonna put him here at the bottom of very likely. We're going to put the Winged Dragon of Ra right there, right next to him, and we're gonna put Slifer, the Sky Dragon, right there. So Renekton, Azir, and Nasus, I think they are all very likely to be in the game, but I can't call which one I think is going to be the more likely of those ones. I also think we can make a strong case for Taliyah as a zoner. I think she's proven herself as one of the characters that they like to feature in their material. I think an Earthbender would work really well. You could create a lot of combos, or just create a system where she's very good at zoning. So Taliyah definitely going to, make the very likely section at least. And Sivir is actually, unfortunately, less likely. I would like Sivir in the game, but I think she's less likely to make it than these four. Sivir would be cool as kind of like a Guile kind of character. Like, if you've got that charge kind of character, which rewards you for playing a bit more on the back foot. But I don't know, she seems more aggressive. She seems like her glaive throwing is more done from an aggressive standpoint. She does have spell shield, so you could justify her as kind of like a Guile, a charge character. But again, we don't even know whether there's going to be charge characters. I don't think there's going to be, because Riot have explicitly said they're trying to keep the difficulty down. So yeah, no Sivir. Unfortunately, I would like her in the game. Ashe is one of those characters that's very likely. I have very strong feelings about Ashe. Tryndamere, based on the thing that I said about Ryze, just the fact that the founders were Ryze and Tryndamere. Ashe and Tryndamere are like in a relationship, so that's a really good pairing to have together. Braum would be the last person from Freljord. In Freljord, look, I think all of these characters, the one I feel the strongest about, just based off of a gameplay perspective, I think in very likely the last Freljord character I'd put is Gragas, because Gragas, at least, he can work kind of like was the dude Hakan from Street Fighter, the dude who puts the oil on himself. We could have a similar vibe with Gragas, where he's got like that drunken master. He kind of also looks like a Rufus kind of character, Rufus from Street Fighter. So like Gragas, I think they could do something with Gragas. The rest of these guys, great characters. So Olaf, we've got Udyr, we've got Trundle. Trundle, I just think, like, if you think about his abilities in League of Legends, I just don't think they translate very well into Project L. Like, what he's shown us with the Ice Pillars and stuff like that, I don't think they make sense in Project L. So Volley, Udyr, Olaf, all of these guys, I think we just gotta put them right here in the unlikely section. Would be cool to have them. The one that I think has a stronger chance than all of them is Volibear, just because I do think they need characters which are kind of like more like furry. That's the best way I could describe them. But basically humanoids, half human, half something else, like the Vastaya. So I think Volibear kind of fits that mold, if anything else. Okay, we've got a lot of characters. We are making a lot of progress down this line. Alawi is one of the characters who, you know what, I'd actually put Alawi at the bottom of definitely in. I feel that strongly about Alawi. A female grappler archetype, you know, she's even got like kind of like a self-healing mechanic based on the Rune King game. I think Alawi has a very strong chance, and you might sleep on her and think like, Loy, you wilding, bruv. Like, how are you going to put Alawi over Nasus or Alawi over whoever's there at the bottom? But I do think she's got a very strong chance of making it into the game. Bilgewater. TF unfortunately is gameplay dependent. It would be nice to see him as a zoner, but we're just not sure how he's gonna fit in yet. Graves, I think, is more likely to show up, just based on the fact that they haven't put him in Legends of Runeterra yet as well. I think they're going to want to feature him in this game as well to kind of make up for that. Alright, Misfortune and Gangplank obviously are coupled together. I think at the very bottom of very likely I'd put Misfortune and Gangplank. Look, Riot Games does like Misfortune. I think she's in one of those, she's in with that list of characters who are just like really like loved at Riot Games, well respected. I can't see where I put Misfortune now. Misfortune, where are you? What? Okay, there she is. Okay, so I think she is one of those characters which is just likely to make it based off popularity. They'll figure out something for her kit, and her kit, like as a zoner, is actually pretty tight. You know what? I'll put her here. Like, I'll put her like at the top of like very likely to make it into the game. There's a lot of strong suggestions as to why Sarah Fortune should be in this game. Tom Kedge, gameplay dependent, depends what they want to do. I can see a world where he makes it, I can see a world that he doesn't. Pyke, very same thing, but Pyke is more up there in my opinion. Pyke is one of those characters, if I was looking to fill the roster, he'd probably make it up into the list. Okay, now we've got a very complicated section. We've got Piltover and Zorn. Now, from this cast of characters, we've got Jinx, we've got Vi, we've got Echo, which means Caitlyn kind of is an auto include. They've got to figure out her kit. I'll put her at the bottom of definitely in, which is like characters which are just, you can't put them in very likely because the evidence, look at all this evidence. Those three characters next to each other, I mean, you've got to have Caitlyn if you've got Vi and Jinx. And Jinx Echo justifies Vi. There's the logical leap that we have taken to get that. Alright, yeah, this video is going to be very long. If it does drag on, you'll find that I've sped up certain sections where I just feel like I haven't said much. Ezreal, you know what? Ezreal is one of those characters which I thought I'd be putting in the definitely in section. Like, at the start of the year, I was like definitely in, but he wasn't even in Arcane, you know? I still think, you know, he's very likely to make it into the game. Warwick is also very likely into the game. I'm going to put in Warwick just based on the diversity point that I was making earlier. And then we've got Blitzcrank and we've got Zac. Now, these two characters I do think work in projectl. I'll just say it straight out the gate. I think they are like, probably, they've got a good chance of being in the game, but not a good enough chance to justify putting them in very likely. So I'd rather put Zac and Blitzcrank in gameplay dependent. Zac isn't a popular character, but for the sake of projectl, I just think his kit is very, very interesting in that kind of game. I do think he's the type of character, as like this piece of goo that like sticks to you, pulls you in, mix you up, etc, etc. Blitzcrank kind of for the same reason. That's why I put them both in the list. They kind of got that grab mechanic, pull you in and then mix you up and then send you on your way, like long screen grapples. Yeah, so that's my logic on those two, but gameplay dependent, definitely. I don't know if Riot is looking to put them in, I'll be honest. Same thing with Singed. Singed could be like really cool with his poison trail, throwing poison gas across the screen and whatever, but again, very gameplay dependent. Let's just put him there in that section. I actually think he's unlikely, so I'm just gonna put him away from like the top people. I'll put him here next to the summoners. I think he's unlikely. I think these three characters are just like wishlist characters where you'd like to see how they'd work in the game. I think characters like this could make the game very interesting and maybe a bit troll at times, but more interesting than troll. Okay, we've already got a lot of characters from Piltover and Zorn that I think have higher priority than Camille. So unfortunately for her, she's going to go in unlikely. I do think her kit and the way she works, the way she fights, I would love her to be in the very likely section. I would love Riot to put Camille in the game. I think she's pretty sick, with the blade legs, but I don't rate she's got a good chance of making it into the game. Jace, however, is actually more likely to make it than Camille. I think because of Arcane, Jace is going to get a lot of attention, and he is the kind of character who I do see playing in a fighter. He is like a quintessential fighting type. He's like kind of like Echo, where you've got like, he's a mix between a Zona and a rushdown character, so he can fight you from like mid range and kind of control the screen, stepping in and out depending on what he wants to do. And the form switch, the fact that he can form switch, I think that's a staple. A lot of fighting games love characters with like a shapeshift, not in a Nidalee kind of sense. Nidalee actually ended up having to be put in unlikely because of the fact that she's like a shapeshifter. But I think on Jace it works better. And if we've got Jace, we need a rival for him, and that's Victor. So Victor would be at the bottom of very likely, but we do need these villain characters showing up. So we've got Gangplank, we've got Victor, we've got Jin. We do need overarching villains. We've got Zed. Zed is like a world boss kind of villain. That's what I like about him. I don't think he's like hard to kill world boss, but I think he can present like a huge threat because he's got so many other people, he's got other characters underneath him, and he really is like the dark one in Ionia. Other than Syndra, I don't think there's a lot more like trouble in Ionia. Okay, Noxus, we're finally getting to the spicy regions. We've got Shadow Isles, Noxus, Ionia, and Demacia left. Stacked, absolutely stacked regions, boys. I don't even know what to say to you other than, if you left this video already, unlucky. But let's go. I am trying to make this video as short as possible, but obviously this is, it's a lot of people to predict. Let's just move on. Talon just doesn't get enough love from a marketing perspective. So just based on that, I think he'd be great in the game. He's kind of like Camille, but Him and Camille just go into the section just based on the fact that they just don't get enough love from a marketing perspective. I think Talon would be a great fit in projectl. Him and Camille, like if they are in the game, I'm gonna wild out, bro. But obviously they need to take a slot from someone else here, and I think Riot has higher priorities up here than down here. We'll see. I've left a lot of mages and enchanters out, but they could also very easily make it. Like you've got Lulus or Ionis. I don't even want to think of that. Okay, Swain, the leader of Noxus. You know what? All I'm doing here is like really just putting the villain characters. He's likely to make it into the game. I think Swain is likely to make it into the game. He's got a transform. He's a zoner. He's the leader of Noxus. His relationship with Katarina and Darius can be explained through a story mode or a campaign mode. If he's not playable, he will make an appearance anyway by name. Let's put him in. Let's give him his respect. LeBlanc. Oh, gameplay dependent. I think she's also... I'll put her at the bottom of very likely. So she's leaning into that gameplay dependent section. But I think LeBlanc as well. I think they want to expand her character a bit. And a game like projectl would be a very good place to put her. Draven, we've got Darius. Draven is a good fit. I love how I'm just justifying this, like, oh, okay, we've got this person, let's just put in that. But I feel like that's what it is. And you know, Riot does give us a lot of tells on which characters are important to them. They put them in the cinematics, they put them on the promo material, they put them in different games like Legends of Runeterra. They design new skins for them more often than they design skins for other characters. Yeah, man, my boy Draven is probably going to be in. Sion has a good chance to make it in, but he's unlikely. How many like biggish characters do we have? We've got Garen, we've got Darius, we've got Renekton could be one of those like really bigger kind of characters. We've got Braum. Braum is also huge. Alawi can also kind of be like justified as like a biggish character. You know what? I wouldn't forgive myself if I at least didn't put Sion in the gameplay dependent section. I think he's one of those characters again who's leaning on that very likely section, almost breaking through, but not really. Okay, I just wanna put Lucian where he deserves to be. I don't even have to explain Lucian. He's almost auto include, and because of that, Senna also just gets dragged in from Shadow Isles. These two work together. Thresh, because he's linked to them, let me just deal with them now. Gameplay dependent. He's got the same thing as like a Zac or Blitzcrank, so it's the same kind of kit that I'm thinking that they could be thinking about between Zac, Blitzcrank, and Thresh. I would say Thresh has the highest chance of getting into the game out of these three if we're talking Zac, Blitzcrank, and him. With that said, is his kit going to work in projectl? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see how they translate Thresh into projectl. He's very like jerky, and I don't think he moves fast across the screen, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, he's leaning more. He's like in between. Like if I could put him there in the middle, I would. Okay, Riven. I want Riven to be in the game so bad. I want her in the game so bad. Just the roster is so big. I'm gonna put her. You know what? This is my request to Riot. This is how I ask Riot Games to put her in the game. I'm just gonna put her in very likely. She probably doesn't deserve to be in very likely. Let's be honest. Samira. Samira is a new character. With the fact that she's new, I'm just going to put her in that unlikely section. She did make this section though, like the divide of characters, right? There's a bunch of characters who have already explained aren't here. I wouldn't even discuss them. Samira is worth discussing. She could very easily be in the game. Rel could also make an appearance, but way less likely than Samira, I think. Silas! We need a villain in Demacia. Let's just put Silas in there. Of course, if we've got Lux, if we've got Gorin, and we've got Demacian characters in general, Silas does seem justified. The only thing is he hasn't even made an appearance in Legends of Runeterra, and I thought Riot would have put him in, so I don't wanna like go back and forth, but again, if we're talking just relationships, if we're talking story, if we're talking about making things interesting, we saw Silas was in that cinematic where he was kind of raiding the city in Demacia. So Silas. Xin Zhao, oh, I'd love to have you in, boy, but you go too unlikely. I don't think I need to speak too much on that. J4 is one of those people who is more likely than some, but less likely than others. Vayne, we're just going to throw you into unlikely, just based on how she fights. You know what I'm saying? Fiora is tough. Fiora is a tough call. Fiora is very tough. I don't know where to put Fiora. Fiora is one of those characters who has me stumped, because I'm not sure if other people would look at her as an auto include, but I'm pretty sure other people would just look at her like, Fiora, never. I think this is a fighting game. We're gonna have like parry mechanics, and she makes sense. She makes sense. I can't not put her at least here. You get me? I can't leave her out of the section here at the top, but I'm not sure where she fits exactly. Okay, Xayah and Rakan come as a package. This is a tag fighter. They wouldn't even be in this list. I would have excluded both of them, but because it's a tag fighter, I think they deserve to be here in the gameplay dependent section, kind of like leaning onto that very likely section. I'm not sure Riot wants to put them in, and unfortunately they are Ionian characters. Right now Ionia is stacked. There's so many Ionian characters that I just don't think there's space for them. But I do think, what I will say about Xayah and Rakan, maybe I should put them here in this corner, in the very likely section. I think they will be in the game at some point. So at some point in projectl, there will be a justification to put in a Xayah and a Rakan. And I think they are two who will be sooner rather than later. So we could be seeing Xayah and Rakan, but I don't think, yeah man, I don't think they, let me just put them here. I said my piece. Okay, I'm just checking whether I'm still recording. I had to double check, my eyes played tricks on me there. Okay, this nightmare of Ionia continues, because there's characters like Wukong who, I mean, Wukong just as the Monkey King, just as a Monkey King archetype, I'm gonna put him in very likely just because of that, just because he's got that like Monkey King archetype. He does bring in a little bit of that humanoid Vastaya thing that we were looking for. They even like did, if you saw in the designs, they even made Ori more like beast-like with her hands, because of this thing that I'm mentioning. Okay, we've got Set. I'm gonna just go out and say that in my first video I predicted Set as like a grappler. I still think that his moveset fits in a fighting game as a grappler perfectly. His ultimate is literally a fighting game move. So he fits in the game. Does he make it though? I'm not sure. So I'm going to put him in gameplay dependent, just because I'm not sure I don't think he fits into the Ionia slots properly, but he's one of those people who you could very easily see in Project L, and I think at some point he will be in the game. Oh, I almost thought I forgot to put in YASUO as 100%. This has been a very long video. Yon, because of YASUO, Yon is very likely. We'll put Yon in gameplay dependent. How many, by gameplay dependent, what I mean by this is how many of the same kind of characters are you gonna fit in? Because I feel like if you've got Yon and you've got like Riven, even a character like Aurelia, I feel like a lot of them are playing the same role at that point. Like it's the same character. I mean, even a Darius kind of operates in the same way. So Yon, yeah, probably could be there, but dependent on how many of the same kind of character archetype they'd want to put in. I think having Yon and YASUO together, even in League of Legends, makes it boring. So we'll see. Aurelia. Okay, Aurelia. Here's the Ionia problem. We've got Aurelia, Karma, Zed, Wukong, so many of people. So Aurelia versus Karma in a fighting game, I personally put in Aurelia, and I put Karma I put her more in the unlikely section. Notice I'm not very confident on calling mages into the game, but we do know that mages will be in the game. It's just something that's gonna happen. So they will be mages. I'm just not confident on making a call on them. Shen, because of Zed, very likely. It's how many Ionian characters? That's 1, 2. I'm gonna stop counting Ionia. You guys get it at this point. I'm not comfortable with putting in this many. It's just that it's a stacked region. I'm going to have to put, just because of how many of them I've put in, I'm going to have to put these 3 in unlikely, even though I believe that they should be. I've said that for every character. Look, this is very hard to call, but I'm just going to put these characters in unlikely just because of who they are up against for slots. Which leaves us with Shadow Isles. I'm going to make a very ballsy call and put Maokai in very likely. I think he's going to be throwing saplings from far screen. it's an archetype we've seen kind of before, like a Zona who summons things and then they stick and they make things harder for you to navigate. Singed would be that kind of character as well, but I just think Maokai fits the bill a bit better. He's the type of character who I can very easily see. I don't think Callista's going to be in, but I want her to be in. If we're talking a wishlist character, Callista is the highest on my wish list, just because I see all of the potential of her just using her spears. She kind of reminds me of a character from another game, so I think she works. Okay, Kindred. Gameplay dependent. Another character who's kind of like a summoner kind of character. Could be in the game, could not be. I don't want to speculate on it. I'd rather not include her. Okay, and we've got Elise, who I feel is also in that category of like a transformer kind of character. You know, probably unlikely. I should bring Nidalee up to this section as well. I think I'm putting too much disrespect. And Viego actually goes into the unlikely section just because of when they started developing the game. They started developing it a long time ago, so I'm not sure that he would be in a state yet, but they still got a lot of time to make models and movesets. But Viego is just a character that I would rather put in unlikely than in likely. Alright, so we've got a bunch of characters here, so let's just drag these guys into the final prediction section. We're actually just going to copy paste. Alright, and as you can see, I have decided on a roster of 37 characters. It's a complete mess. That's a whole lot of characters, but they like have 140 different characters to choose from. So who I decided on, of course, we've already got Katarina, Darius, Ori, Jinx, and Echo definitely in. So I decided Vi, Goran, Lux, YASUO, Zed, Lee Sin, Braum, Alawi, Caitlyn, Leona, Diana, Jhin, Taliyah, Ashe, Tryndamere, Gragas, Graves, Misfortune, Shen, Warwick, Jace, Swain, Draven, Lucian, Senna, Riven. Yo, that might be controversial. Riven could be subbed out for like Wukong. Silas, Aurelia, Maokai, Renekton, Nasus, Gangplank, and then the last two are Jarvan, 4, and LeBlanc. These two characters I'm really, like, I have my doubts on. So the 35 would be these characters before them. These two for bonus. Teemo will make an appearance in some form. Obviously, I haven't added like Yordles into this, so I mean someone like Poppy or whatever might make it in. But there is my final prediction, guys. Let me know what your predictions are for projectl in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm out. Peace.